Welcome! In this explainer, we're all about breaking down really big topics into clear, visual stories that just make sense. Today, we're diving deep into Chapter 12 of a fantastic book from the Evidence Mastery series. It's called Real-World Evidence, Principles and Practice, and it's by Dr. Masoud Tusi. We're going to focus on how real-world evidence is completely changing the game for the pharmaceutical and life sciences industry.
All right, so for decades, the absolute gold standard for testing a new medicine has been the randomized controlled trial, the RCT. It's been the foundation of everything.
But here's the thing. An RCT happens in this super controlled, almost perfect setting. It answers one question really, really well. Can this drug work? Real-world evidence, or RWE, asks something totally different, but just as important. Does this drug actually work in the messy, complicated reality of our day-to-day lives?
Okay, so let's get into it. We're going to break this down by looking at the four main areas where RWE has become absolutely critical: safety, effectiveness, getting approved by payers, and measuring a drug's true value. First up, safety. Now, clinical trials are great, but they usually only have a few thousand patients, and they don't run forever. They're just not big enough or long enough to catch those really rare side effects that might only pop up once millions of people are taking a new medicine. And this is where things have completely changed. I mean, we've gone from a passive system, basically waiting for a doctor to maybe mail in a report about a side effect, to active surveillance. We are now proactively hunting for safety signals in these gigantic healthcare databases. But it's not that simple. One of the biggest challenges here is something called confounding by indication. So what does that mean? Well, you have to figure out if a bad outcome is because of the drug, or because the drug was given to a patient who was already really sick to begin with. See the problem? It's tough to untangle.
So, to get around this, regulators have built these incredible global networks. I mean, just look at these numbers. In the US, the FDA Sentinel system can watch over data from almost 300 million patients. Europe's got its own powerhouse, Darwin EU. These systems use some seriously sophisticated methods to cut through all that noise and find the real drug effects.
Okay, this idea of looking at real patient data leads us right into our second pillar, effectiveness. This is all about closing that gap between how a drug works in a perfect trial and how it actually performs out in the real world. Now, this is a really key point. Effectiveness doesn't mean the drug is weaker or that its efficacy is lower. Not at all. It's about its contextual performance. How does it work when you factor in real life? Things like, did the patient actually take the pill? What other medications are they on? It's the whole picture.
And what you can do with this is just amazing. You can use RWE to get a drug approved for new uses, or to create a comparison group for a rare disease trial where giving a placebo just wouldn't be ethical. It lets us see if a drug keeps working for years, not just a few months.
A fantastic real-world example of this is the cancer drug pembrolizumab. RWE from thousands of actual patients was used to confirm that it worked incredibly well for people with a specific genetic marker. This gave regulators way more confidence than they could have gotten from the initial trial alone.
Okay, so your drug is safe, it's effective, but the journey's not over. Not even close. That brings us to pillar number 3, market access. You still have to convince the people who actually pay for the drugs, like insurance companies and national health systems, that they should cover the cost.
And this is a huge shift. Payers are no longer just asking, does it work? They're asking, how well does it work compared to what we're already paying for? They want to see its comparative value. And you guessed it, RWE is how you prove that. In Europe, they're actually making this official. A new regulation pretty much requires companies to use RWE to show how their drug stacks up against the local standard of care. So you can't just have global trial data, you need to show how it compares to the treatment used in, say, Spain versus the one used in Germany. This leads us perfectly into our last pillar, health economics and outcomes research, or HEOR. This is where we really zoom out and try to measure the total value of a treatment. HEOR goes way beyond just the clinical results. As you can see here, it uses RWE to look at economic impacts, like does this drug reduce expensive hospital stays? And, maybe most importantly, it measures patient-reported outcomes, things like quality of life. We're actually asking patients how they feel using these validated tools you see here.
A classic example of this was with the new drugs for hepatitis C. The price tag was, well, it was really high, and it gave payers sticker shock. But a huge RWE study showed the true value.
By paying for this drug now, the healthcare system would avoid the massive future cost of liver transplants and cancer. Turns out they were incredibly cost-effective.
So, after going through these 4 pillars, safety, effectiveness, access, and value, you're probably wondering, is this the end of the road for the good old randomized controlled trial?
No, not at all. The future isn't about replacing one with the other. It's about putting them together. We're moving toward a continuous evidence ecosystem where the super precise data from RCTs and the broad, real-world data from RWE feed off each other in a constant learning loop.
So the real question isn't RCT or RWE anymore. It's how do we make them work together in the smartest way possible? Because that's how we're finally going to deliver on the biggest promise of healthcare, care that is precise, valuable, and truly centered on the patient.
Everything we've talked about today comes straight from Chapter 12 of the book Real-World Evidence, Principles and Practice by Dr. Masad Tusi. It's really a fantastic guide to this whole new world. If you want to go even deeper on this stuff, the book is available for purchase on Amazon.com. Thanks so much for watching.